Well, our top focus story continues to remain Maharashtra, which, remember, is the worst affected state by the COVID-19 crisis. The Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray yesterday stopped short of enforcing a complete lockdown but announced some tough restrictions for the next 15 days that will permit only essential activities in the state. Starting today at 8 p.m, Section 144 or prohibitory orders will be imposed across the state of Maharashtra and only essential travels and services will be allowed. The new measures come at a time when Maharashtra is reporting over 60,000 cases in the last 24 hours. Uddhav Thackeray has also requested the military's help in tackling oxygen and medicine shortage in the state.
कडक पावलं उचलण्याची आवश्यकता आणि ती वेळ टोकक्षण आलेला आहे. मग काय करायचं? मी एकदम काही लॉकडाऊन असं म्हणत नाहीये, पण काही निर्बंध हे साधारणतः त्या सदृश्य आहेत. कारण ही साखळी जर का तुटली नाही तर ही साखळी आपल्याला पूर्ण गुरफटून गुंबरून टाकल्याशिवाय राहणार नाही. आपल्याला रोजीरोटी महत्त्वाची आहेच, त्याहीबद्दल मी बोलणार आहे. पण रोजीरोटीच्या बरोबरीने आधी जीव वाचवायला पाहिजे. जीव वाचलं तर सगळं काही आहे आणि जीव वाचवणं हाच आता आपल्यासमोरचा महत्त्वाचा मुद्दा आहे. आणि तो वाचवण्यासाठी मी पुन्हा एकदा सगळ्यांना हात जोडून विनंती करतो आहे की आजपर्यंत जी काही निर्बंध आपण टाकलेले होते त्या निर्बंधात आता आपण अधिक वाढ करतो आहोत. आणि हे निर्बंध उद्या 8 वाजल्यापासून संध्याकाळी 8 वाजल्यापासून आपल्या राज्यात लागू होतील. आणि त्याच्यासाठी मी माननीय पंतप्रधानांना काही विनंत्या करतो आहे. त्या बाकीच्या तर मी आपल्याकडे सांगतोच, पण एक विनंती मी त्यांना करतो आहे ज्याच्याबद्दल मी अधिकृत पत्र पण लिहितोय की ही रस्त्याने आता ऑक्सिजन आणेपर्यंत आमच्याकडे फार विचित्र परिस्थिती निर्माण झालेली आहे. मला कल्पना नाही असं करता येणे शक्य आहे का. असेल तर आपल्याला लष्करी तज्ञांची मदत घेऊन जर हवाई वाहतुकीने आमच्याकडे ऑक्सिजन आणू शकलो आपण आणि आणू शकत असू तर कृपा करून आम्हाला नुसती परवानगी नाही तर एअरफोर्सला सांगून आम्हाला मदत करायचे तसे आदेश द्या.
Well, several key announcements in the Chief Minister's, long sort of address to the state where he actually mentions what all is going to be shut. The most important announcement perhaps is that Section 144, which is a prohibitory order which bans the gathering of people without a valid reason, is now in force across the state, at least comes into force from 8 p.m. on Wednesday. And this will of course happen by then. The cabinet meeting also would have taken place. But all these restrictions have been announced. The Chief Minister also announcing that the Shiv Bhojan Thali will be available free of cost so that those who may not have the wherewithal to buy food could avail of the Shiv Bhojan Thali, which is available free of cost. Several other initiatives, payments to labor who are registered, and also the roadside stalls of Mumbai, those have been allowed to stay open because a lot of people depend on those stalls also for food. So all of that is there. In fact, that is going to continue, and several other things as well. Public transport is going to continue, but there will be of course severe restrictions that will also come in. You cannot move around without a valid reason, and exemptions which are there, those also are of course there in writing in that order. And medicine shops, grocery shops, all of those things which are essential services, banks, financial institutions, data centers, all of those will of course have to continue working. But all in all, it's different from last year's lockdown. Several things that had hit people really hard, those things seem to have been addressed. But of course, once it comes into force from 8 p.m. on Wednesday, one will see the full impact on Thursday. So obviously all of these things will be enforced, but clearly lockdown like restrictions, but not a full lockdown. The break the chain is what the effort is, because Mumbai really and Maharashtra really is running out of facilities to treat COVID-19 patients in the second wave, which has hit the state hard. The state is of course ramping up capacity of beds. There's an oxygen shortage, several other drugs shortage. So all of those things are being addressed. In the meanwhile, the government hopes that these 15 days of less activity, which means less interactions, which means less spread of COVID-19, will help them ramp up the capacity that they need. And these restrictions will come into force from Wednesday 8 p.m. and they will continue for 15 days.
All right, now patients and doctors continue to say that remdesivir, which is a drug that is used commonly to treat severe COVID, is running out. This is something that was reiterated by the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Uddhav Thackeray, in his press briefing. However, the centre continues to remain that it is in short supply.
बेड्स मिळत नाहीयेत, ऑक्सिजन आता अपुरा पडायला लागलेला आहे, रेमडेसिवीर औषधांची प्रचंड मागणी वाढलेली आहे. रेमडेसिवीरचं सुद्धा मधल्या काळामध्ये मागणी एकदम खाली गेली आणि ती खाली गेल्यानंतर कंपन्यांनी उत्पादन जवळपास कमी केलं किंवा ना थांबवलं. अचानक मागणी वाढली. आता हळूहळू हा पुरवठा आपल्याकडे सुरू झालेला आहे. आपल्या राज्यात आजच्या दिवशी साधारणतः किती रेमडेसिवीर इंजेक्शन वापरले जातात? साधारणतः 40 ते 50 हजार, म्हणजे 40 ते 50 हजार सरासरी रोजची आजची आपली रेमडेसिवीर इंजेक्शनची ही मागणी आहे, गरज आहे.
There is no question of use of remdesivir in home setting. No. This is required for those individuals who require hospitalization and are not only that, are on oxygen. इसकी थोड़ा सा shortages in some areas की खबरें आई थी, वो सब उसमें सुधार आ गया है. कोई घबराने की जरूरत नहीं है. ये मेडिसिन प्लेंटीफुल अवेलेबल है. ठीक तरह से इस्तेमाल करने की जरूरत है. भ्रम फैलाने की जरूरत नहीं है.
All right, so the Maharashtra Chief Minister there saying that there is a short supply. The centre, however, denying any reports of a short supply of remdesivir. But what really is the situation on the ground in Maharashtra? Well, my colleague Sohit Mishra has been travelling across the worst hit COVID-19 state. He's covered the length and breadth of over 1100 kilometers in the state. He's currently in Pune. He sent us this report from one of the worst hit districts in the second wave.
Right now I am in Pune's Hadapsar area. Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray few moments ago had said that from 14th of April at night 8 PM section 144 will be imposed. There has been several rules that has been made. On my left hand side is a bus that is going to Latur, Maharashtra's Latur, and behind me are few of the laborers that used to work in Pune but are now scared, are feared that the lockdown would begin, and that's the reason that they have now once again started to migrate. However, this time they have started to go via these buses.
खाने का बंदोबस्त नहीं होता ना लॉकडाउन होने के बाद, खाने का और रहने का
नहीं हो रहा है.
हाँ, इसलिए जा रहा हूँ मैं लातूर को.
अच्छा, आपका नाम बताइएगा, आप क्या करते हैं?
मैं गाड़ी चलाता हूँ, संदीपान सूबेदार है मेरा.
गाड़ी मतलब क्या, कैब चलाते हैं?
हाँ, कैब चलाता हूँ.
आप भी लातूर जा रहे हैं, क्यों जा रहे हैं, क्या हुआ? गाड़ियाँ तो शुरू हैं.
गाड़ी का वो धंधा नहीं हो पा रहा ना इधर, इसकी वजह से लातूर जा रहा हूँ मैं.
अच्छा,
उधर तो अपने अभी रहना पड़ेगा एक दिन, जितने दिन लॉकडाउन चलता है उतने दिन तो रहना पड़ेगा ना
काम. लेकिन कैसा है, सेठ जो बोलता है कि तुम्हारे जिम्मेदारी के ऊपर तुम काम करो, हमारा जिम्मेदारी नहीं है. कल अगर लॉकडाउन पड़ भी गया तो हमारा जिम्मेदारी नहीं है. तुम्हारा देखो, आप आपका देखो.
just hours after Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray announced that section 144 will be imposed, and what we can see in Pune Sadapsar is that people belonging to at least Nagpur have reached over here, and they say because of the new rules and regulations, how it is impacting them, they are now going back to their villages. In Pune, with camera person Praveen Ji Rohit, Sohit Mishra, NDTV.
Now, cases, of course, surging in the national capital as well. It, remember, has surpassed the number of cases. It is, in fact, now recording more cases than the city of Mumbai. Well, let's now shift our focus to Gujarat, because in Gujarat, the COVID-19 crisis is worsening by the day. Crematoriums are ablaze with pyres as deaths continue to rise in the state, and there is a line of ambulances outside the main city hospital in Ahmedabad, clearly reflecting a shortage of COVID beds.
Ambulances with corona patients lined up outside Ahmedabad's main hospital for COVID care, the civil hospital. The facility clearly unable to cope with the rush of patients. Gujarat is among the worst affected states in the second wave of COVID. More than 6,000 new infections and 55 deaths were reported from the state on Monday. The main hospital for COVID, the Ahmedabad Civil Hospital, ran out of beds, and a long line of ambulances could be seen outside the hospital with COVID patients inside awaiting treatment. Medical help like oxygen had to be provided by paramedics to patients inside the waiting ambulances till the patients were accommodated.
टोटल अभी मेडिसिटी कैंपस में 2008 पेशेंट दाखिल है। टोटल कैपेसिटी 2120 की है। कल की रात की जो बात करूं मैं तो हमारे यहाँ 108 जो एम्बुलेंस लाइन में थी वो सब पेशेंट को हमने पूरी रात लिया है। जितना भी पेशेंट आता है हम किसी को मना नहीं किया है, सब पेशेंट को हमने यहाँ 1200 बेड में लिया है।
At crematoriums, a queue to find a pyre free. In this video from Surat, bodies being cremated out in the open as crematoriums are overflowing. Non-stop burning of bodies has also led to the melting of gas furnaces at 3 major crematoriums in Surat city. That Gujarat could well be approaching a health emergency of sorts were concerns expressed by the Gujarat High Court that will take up for hearing again on Thursday a suo motu PIL on the COVID situation in the state. The court had observed, why are remdesivir injections being sold at such a high price? If oxygen and beds are available, why do people need to stand in a queue? The court had asked. In the meantime, the impact of the epidemic. Shops closed in Rajkot, and amidst a surge in cases in Surat, crowds of migrant workers have begun thronging bus stands looking for a way to return home, fearing another lockdown. NDTV Bureau Report.
From Gujarat, let's take you to Madhya Pradesh, where questions are now being asked on whether the Madhya Pradesh government is actually concealing data of the total number of COVID deaths that have been recorded in the state. In the second wave of the pandemic, COVID deaths are surging. Crematoriums are overburdened, but there is a huge mismatch on the ground between the numbers that are arriving for cremation and the health bulletin by the state government on a daily basis. My colleague Anurag Dwari with this story.
Scary pictures at the Bhadbhada crematorium in Bhopal.
84 में गैस कांड के पीड़ित के बाद दूसरा ये वक्त है जो हमको देखना पड़ रहा है। उस समय मैं 9th क्लास में था। 9th क्लास के बाद आज 50 साल की एज में आज पहली बार मुझे दूसरा मंजर देखने को मिल रहा है। अभी तक यहाँ 30 से 40 लाशें जो जलाई जाती क्योंकि कोविड से रिलेटेड।
And now concerns are being raised on whether the state is actually reporting the correct death toll due to COVID. There were 37 COVID bodies at this single crematorium in Bhopal on Monday. The health bulletin for that day mentioned a total of 37 deaths in the entire state. Scenes at the crematorium, a clear mismatch with the COVID fatality figures from the state.
3-4 घंटे से बैठे हुए हैं। डेड बॉडी जो है कि हमारी वो रखी हुई है वहाँ पर। अब चारों तरफ जो है डेड बॉडियाँ जल रही हैं। वहाँ क्रियाक्रम करना तो कर ही नहीं सकते, इतनी जल्दी वेट करना पड़ रहा है। जितनी बॉडी है उसके हिसाब से यहाँ पे जगह नहीं है, आप खुद भी देखिए।
NDTV studied the fatality figures over a period of 5 days and found inconsistencies. Sample this. On the 8th of April, 41 bodies were cremated in Bhopal under the COVID-19 protocol. But the medical bulletin that day said that there were 27 deaths because of COVID in the entire state. On the 9th of April, 35 bodies were cremated in Bhopal, 23 as per the government bulletin in the entire state. Though the government maintains that no underreporting is taking place.
सरकार की कोई मंशा नहीं है कि किसी भी तरह की मृत्यु के आंकड़े को छुपाया जाए और वो छुपा के किसी तरह का हमें कोई अवार्ड नहीं मिलने वाला, ऐसा कहीं भी कोई मंशा नहीं।
Crematorium workers highlight their problems from running out of wood to blisters all over their hands.
100-150 कुंटल लकड़ी जा रही है डेली परमानेंटली।
अच्छा, रोज के कितने जल जाते हैं?
यहाँ एक रोज 40, 45, 30, 32 आदि गाड़ी आ रही है डेली।
While Madhya Pradesh is battling a surge in COVID-19 cases and lockdown, the dead and the kin are crying for a decent cremation. In the second wave of pandemic, crematoriums are clearly flooded. But if you see the government bulletin, the administration is clearly fudging with the data. In Bhopal, with camera person Rizwan Khan, Anurag Dwari for NDTV.
Well, a worrying story there from Madhya Pradesh indeed. With that, we're going to slip into a very short break. We'll be back with more news on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's now take you to Jammu and Kashmir, where we're reporting some good news at a time when the COVID-19 crisis in the country is peaking. Remember, tourism has been among the worst hit sectors, but that's not true for Kashmir, where the tourist footfall has actually exceeded 1 lakh since December.
Never mind COVID, we have to travel. That's Priya and her father Major Kotecha, who have travelled all the way from Gujarat as the pandemic rages throughout the country, because their visit to see the Dal Lake and Tulip Garden was long overdue.
And as you know, because there are constraints in international travels, and also all people are preferring to go over the domestic basis.
Correct.
So yeah, actually we have planned since long to come here.
Okay.
So everything was booked. And
Okay.
then this, all of a sudden there was a COVID surge. So we were also in a dilemma that whether we should go or not.
तो अभी रिटायर होने के बाद तय कर लिया कि जाना ही जाना है, तो 2-3 महीने पहले ही प्लान कर लिया था, सब बुकिंग हो गया है। कोविड आ गया मतलब फिर से, फिर उसका RT-PCR सब टेस्ट करवा गया है, इधर भी एंगेजमेंट करवाया।
Many visitors say that with restrictions on international travel, Kashmir was a good option for them. The State Tourism Department says over 1 lakh tourists have arrived in the valley since December, at a time when daily cases in Kashmir are up to 1,200.
An opportunity that we should invite people here, as we have seen that COVID management has been very well in Jammu and Kashmir, and that is how it has picked up from December onwards. And till now, let me just inform you that 1,13,000 tourists they have visited.
After the lockdown effect last year, hoteliers say their businesses are recovering this year.
तो लोग अच्छे खासे आ गए, तो स्टार्ट हो गया था। जो हमारे मुलाजिम ऑलरेडी सारे बेचारे निकल चुके थे, कुछ जो बिजनेस से ख़त्म हो चुके थे, फिर शुरुआत हो गई। अल्लाह का शुक्र है। तो मगर बदकिस्मती है, ये पैंडेमिक का मसला चल रहा है, कुछ महाराष्ट्र, कुछ गुजरात, तो वहाँ से थोड़ा सा उसमें कुछ हफ्ते से फ़र्क आ गया है।
Amid COVID, there's tourism boom in Kashmir. Stakeholders say that if it continues like this, it will help revive tourism sector that was literally crippled due to political situation and subsequent COVID lockdown. In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
Well, let's now shift our focus to the big political story from Bengal. Mamata Banerjee, who remember faced a brief ban by the Election Commission for allegedly making provocative remarks, has resumed campaigning and spared no time in hitting out at Prime Minister Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah. She was speaking at a rally when she warned that if she is pushed, she can push back.
বাংলাকে গুজরাট করতে দেব না, বাংলাকে গুজরাট করা যাবে না। আর আমাকে আটকানোর চেষ্টা করে কোনো লাভ নেই। আমাকে প্রতিঘাত করলে আমি প্রতিঘাত করতে পারি, আমাকে আঘাত করলে আমি প্রত্যাঘাত করি। আমি ঘরে ঢুকে যাওয়ার লোক নই।
Welcome back. Well, for 7 straight days, India has seen over 1 lakh COVID-19 cases on a daily basis. There are micro-containment strategies that have been put in place. The Maharashtra Chief Minister stopped short of announcing a lockdown, prohibitory orders there for 15 days. But look at those visuals on your screens. Today is the 3rd Shahi Snan of the Mahakumbh. This is taking place in Haridwar, with millions of devotees from across India expected to take a dip in the Ganga at a time when COVID-19 cases in the country are surging. But at the ghats of the Ganga, social distancing continues to remain a distant reality, with most devotees even claiming quite publicly that they have no fear of COVID-19. My colleague Akshay Dongre reports from Ground Zero in Haridwar.
So do you think that there is a fear of COVID here because there are so many people, absolutely no social distancing?
I feel in the power of the Ganga, the energy is so strong than the virus. We need to live, of course. We need to stay together. Why not here? I think the benefit will be bigger than contamination.
आप बताइए, किसी प्रकार का डर यहाँ पर लोगों में कोविड का आपको लग रहा है?
नहीं, हमको कोई डर नहीं है, लेकिन यह है कि हमें इस डर को अपने अंदर रखना चाहिए, है ना। अगर
डर है नहीं है,
डर नहीं है अभी, लेकिन क्या है कि अगर हम सबको छोड़ देंगे ऐसी, तो बहुत मुसीबत हो सकती है, है ना
जी, वो तो है। So there are certain people who are saying that fear should be there, but it's not here, at least at the ghats. To speak to these people as well and try to take their perspective. कहाँ से आए सर आप? कहाँ से आए हैं?
हम लोग तो यहीं से
शिवालिक से। एक बात बताइए, यहाँ पे कोविड का किसी प्रकार का डर आपको लग रहा है लोगों को?
ये ना इतना
डर
तो है आया हुआ है,
हाँ।
तो बढ़ेगा ही, स्वाभाविक है।
और आप लोकल से? आप लोकल है?
हम तो यही से है, लेकिन डर तो है ही है।
हाँ। तो क्या लगता है कि कुंभ के यहाँ पर इस साल होने से, क्योंकि कोरोना का पूरा देश में संक्रमण चल रहा है, लोकल आबादी पर भी असर पड़ेगा, कोरोना यहाँ भी फैल सकता है?
बाहर से लोग आ रहे हैं तो स्वाभाविक है, फैलेगा ही फैलेगा। और उसके बाद में देखिए खत्म होने के बाद में कितना यहाँ के लोगों को प्रॉब्लम होगी।
वही इफेक्टेड आएगा, 90-100 को तो इफेक्ट करेगा वो।
तो यहाँ पर लगता है कि प्रशासन कहीं ना कहीं सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग नहीं रखवा पा रहा है, लोगों को अलग अलग
होगा ही नहीं,
क्या कर पाएंगे
ऐसे में सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग नहीं हो सकता है।
लेकिन फिर भी डरों को पीछे करके आप यहाँ पर स्नान करने के लिए आए, डर होते हुए भी आप स्नान करने के लिए आए हैं।
माता रानी का आशीर्वाद है, जय माँ गंगे।
These are certain claims of the people. Some are saying that there are fears, others are saying that there are absolutely no fear. Many are comparing the Kumbh congregation to the election rallies that are taking place across the country, but the situation remains extremely worrying as far as the COVID appropriate behavior and the authorities as far as the regulation, implementation of those rules are concerned.
Well, let's now shift our focus to the national capital. Now, Delhi, remember, has reported over 13,000 cases in the last 24 hours. This is the highest ever for the national capital since the beginning of the pandemic. The pressure on the healthcare infrastructure at the moment has been mounting. This has forced authorities to tag several private hospitals as COVID-dedicated hospitals. But what about the existing patients? Meher Pandey brings us this report from the Holy Family Hospital in Delhi.
This hospital, Holy Family, has been made a fully COVID hospital by the Delhi government. So what has that led to? What's the impact of that here?
Right, it's a very difficult situation. Yes, we have had to turn away a lot of patients because we are full right now. We also have non-COVID patients who have been there from before who are also sick. And it is difficult to move them out and send them to another hospital at this point, but we are trying our best as much as we can to discharge some of them, send them to other hospitals. But to convert to 100% within a 24-hour notice is not possible because we cannot throw patients out who are sick. And other people, I know COVID is an important fact of our lives right now and it's a difficult situation, but that doesn't mean that we throw out other patients who are critically ill. Not so seriously ill, we can send to some other hospital.
So how many beds have been asked from you and how many have you been able to provide so far?
Right, so we have 345 beds for the hospital, but out of that 41 beds are neonatal beds. They cannot be used for adult patients and COVID is mostly for adults. So about 304 beds. We have been asked to provide all the beds for COVID, 100%. And at this point of time we have reached about 214 beds for COVID. And we are slowly building up. Hopefully in the next 4-5 days we will be able to reach 100%, but we are steadily trying to increase the number of beds available. And also the number of beds for ICU beds, what has been asked for, we have already provided. So actually we are trying to increase our ICU capacity also. We are trying to convert some of the semi-ICUs into ICUs because the need for beds is increasing for critically ill COVID patients.
So on the Delhi Corona app, the dashboard where beds can be seen, it says you have 0 beds as of now. So this happened in a span of how much time? Is there a change in how quickly you've lost?
Right. So the thing is that we were asked for beds, increasing number of beds over a period of time. So initially we were asked for only 25%, then it doubled and then it increased some more. So as soon as we were asked for whatever beds, it was filling up rapidly. And actually these many beds coming from about 30-40 beds to 210-14 beds has been just in the last 4-5 days. The surge has been immense, absolutely. ICU beds had started filling up a little earlier, but the rest of the beds are filling up very rapidly now. And it is a very critical situation in every way. It's a logistical nightmare also to do that.
So how many people, you were saying you've had to turn people away. How many people have you had to turn away?
I don't know the numbers, but actually what's also happening is that a lot of patients are coming to the casualty with just a corona positive who don't need to be in the hospital. So there's a panic. What has happened because of the lack of beds all around, there is a panic that they won't get beds, and though they don't need an hospitalization. Just because you're corona positive or having just COVID infection does not mean they need to be. Those who need to be hospitalized should come to the hospital. We have turned away. None of them have been, almost rarely it has been those who require an ICU or oxygen bed. Those we have mostly taken them in our ambulance to other hospitals. Logistically, the biggest difficulty has been some of the medicines. So one being remdesivir, the other being tocilizumab. Remdesivir again, it is being indiscriminately used. It should not be used in patients who do not require oxygen. Okay, and its role is limited. It's the evidence is only for a small subset of patients, but there is a overuse and people are prescribing in patients who are not on oxygen, in home care, etc. So that's the reason why, probably even more reason why there is a shortage.
Well, hospitals in Delhi are also running out of some crucial drugs like tocilizumab, which is a drug that is used to treat severe cases of coronavirus. Families of patients are having to run helter-skelter in order to be able to find this, many even searching for it in the black market. Meher Pandey with this report.
Logistically, the biggest difficulty has been some of the medicines. So one being remdesivir, the other being tocilizumab. Remdesivir again, it is being indiscriminately used. It should not be used in patients who do not require oxygen usually. Okay, and its role is limited. It's the evidence is only for a small subset of patients, but there is a overuse and people are prescribing in patients who are not on oxygen, in home care, etc. So that's the reason why, probably even more reason why there is a shortage. Tocilizumab is also a very small subgroup of patients who are very, very critical. They have to be used. There is a certain timeline or time point where we need to use it. So also the way we choose to use it has to be more, better evidence based in many places. So that is why also sometimes there is increased demand because of sometimes, I will say, if not inappropriate, but use, but rather use which is not specific to the subset who require it.
So you think this panic is leading to the shortage more than like?
I think so. It's a combination of factors. Yes, the numbers are rising for sure, and there is a need. And actually, what had happened, because the numbers had dipped in between, so people had become complacent in terms of production also of drugs, and understandably. And now the sudden surge, they have to increase production of these drugs, which is taking time. So there is a shortage of these things. The other shortage we are facing is to start the beginning, not shortage yet, but we are reaching the limits of the number of ventilators we have. So we are buying and renting rapidly ventilators and high flow nasal cannula for oxygen. That's oxygen supply is not a problem for us yet in our hospital. I don't think that should be. We have good backup. But it is a worrying situation, because if we need to increase the number of ventilators and high flow nasal cannula, they demand a lot of oxygen from the system. So not just the usual oxygen. So at that point there could be a breaking point can happen, because never in a hospital do so many people require oxygen at such high levels.
Well, the US regulators have recommended a temporary pause on the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine. This after they say there have been reports of a rare and severe type of blood clot in 6 persons out of the millions who've been vaccinated in the United States. The CDC will be reviewing the cases, pending which they may recommend a pause on the use of the vaccine, or in fact may even go ahead and say that the vaccine can be disseminated again. But for now, the US has halted the Johnson & Johnson vaccine over concerns of blood clots.
Today, the CDC and FDA announced that they are calling a pause on the administration of the J&J vaccine for COVID-19 due to a small number of adverse events. It was seen in 6 out of the 6.85 million people who've been vaccinated, and out of an abundance of caution, they've called a pause on the administration. There are a couple of reasons to do that. The first is to investigate this a bit further, and the second is to alert the clinicians out there when someone comes in with these types of symptoms to ask them if they have a history of a recent vaccination.
Well, with that, we're going to slip into a very short break. Coming up on the other side, we'll get you all the top stories from around the world. Stay with us. Welcome back. Our top story: amid a steep rise in COVID-19 cases, India's worst hit state, Maharashtra, is seeing prohibitory orders in place for a period of 15 days. The Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray on Tuesday stopped short of enforcing a complete lockdown, but has announced tough restrictions for the next 15 days that permits only essential activities from taking place. From today, 8 p.m, Section 144 or prohibitory orders will be imposed across the state and only essential travel and services will be permitted. The new measures come at a time when Maharashtra reported over 60,000 cases in 24 hours. Uddhav Thackeray has also requested the centre for the military's help in tackling the oxygen shortage and the shortage in medical supply. My colleague Purva Chitnis joins us live with the very latest. Purva, what's the situation on the ground right now, given the fact that in about 11 hours from now, prohibitory orders will be put in place in the state of Maharashtra? What really is the sentiment on the ground? Purva, can you hear me?
If you can repeat your question.
Yes, I said, Purva, in about 11...
If I heard you correct, are you asking...
Yes, in about 11 hours from now, there will be a 15-day partial lockdown imposed in the state of Maharashtra. What is the sentiment on the ground right now?
Well, in fact, as we know that till, in the last week also, the state came up with the restrictions that, even in the morning, essentials, people are going for essential travel only, they will be allowed, and shops and restaurants and all are anyway shut. So in the marketplace also where I am, you can just see that, there are not many people on the road. And, that has been followed for the past 1 week or so, that through the day, as the day progresses in marketplaces, people start crowding. But now, with the new restrictions in place, we'll have to see how it will be implemented on ground, because Section 144 is imposed. The government did not say it is a lockdown completely, but it is almost a lockdown style restriction. So Mumbai police will have to also make sure that 144, which is imposed on ground, is followed, which means that not more than 5 people can be at one point at one place. And then of course all the public places are closed, then restaurants and hotels are going to be closed, cinema halls, theaters are going to be closed, but the difference here is that the public transport is allowed, which means that the buses and trains will function. They will not be shut, but it will only be for people who are associated with essential travel only. So like last time, the public transport is not shut, it is allowed, but it is only for people who are into essential travel. Then also, another major difference is that the hotels are allowed for, parcel service. The takeaway service is allowed, which means, like, unlike last time when you could not even find a vada pav on the street, you can still get that. Even the street vendors, food stalls are allowed, but only for the parcel service, which means you cannot like stand on the road and eat or drink juice, but it is allowed. So that is somewhat a relief, which is from last time's lockdown. Like, people can get food on the road, but you cannot stand and eat. And there's a 144 which has been imposed, which means you cannot crowd the streets. However, we need to see how different sections of the society react to it, because we've also been seeing the reports that the migrants are already started, going back to their hometowns. Then also a lot of small traders are also upset that their shops and, retail stores are going to be closed. However, financial aid is also given to different sections of the society. Also, that needs to be seen how it is implemented on ground, because the auto rickshaws and the hawkers who are authorized are going to get some financial aid. But we have to see how that is implemented on ground. But for now, from tonight 8 p.m, Maharashtra is going to go into a lockdown style restrictions for the next 15 days.
All right, Purva, we will keep a close watch on all of those developments. So a lot of mechanisms have been put in place by the state government. Contingencies have been put in place even when it comes to ration distribution or leaving street vendors open in order to prevent the kind of scenes that one did see as far as the lockdown is concerned in 2020. We will keep a close watch on all of those restrictions that have been put in place and, of course, the ramifications thereof. Meanwhile, patients and doctors continue to say that remdesivir, which is a drug that is used to treat severe COVID, is running out. This is something that was reiterated by the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Uddhav Thackeray, yesterday in his press briefing. However, the centre continues to say that it is not.
बेड्स मिळत नाहीयेत. ऑक्सिजन आता अपुरा पडायला लागलेला आहे. रेमडेसिवीर औषधांची प्रचंड मागणी वाढलेली आहे. रेमडेसिवीरचं सुद्धा मधल्या काळामध्ये मागणी एकदम खाली गेली आणि ती खाली गेल्यानंतर कंपन्यांनी उत्पादन जवळपास कमी केलं किंवा ना थांबवलं. अचानक मागणी वाढली. आता हळूहळू हा पुरवठा आपल्याकडे सुरू झालेला आहे. आपल्या राज्यात आजच्या दिवशी साधारणतः किती रेमडेसिवीर इंजेक्शन वापरले जातात? साधारणतः 40 ते 50 हजार, म्हणजे 40 ते 50 हजार सरासरी रोजची आजची आपली रेमडेसिवीर इंजेक्शनची ही मागणी आहे, गरज आहे.
There is no question of use of remdesivir in home setting. No. This is required for those individuals who require hospitalization and are not only that, are on oxygen. इसकी थोड़ा सा shortages in some areas की खबरें आई थी. वो सब उसमें सुधार आ गया है. कोई घबराने की जरूरत नहीं है. ये मेडिसिन प्लेंटीफुल अवेलेबल है. ठीक तरह से इस्तेमाल करने की जरूरत है. भ्रम फैलाने की जरूरत नहीं है.
All right, from Maharashtra, let's now shift our focus to Delhi. Remember, Delhi now has surpassed Mumbai in terms of the daily rise in COVID-19 infections. Delhi is reporting 13,468 cases in the last 24 hours. This is Delhi's highest till date. 81 deaths have also been reported in this 24-hour period. So it is an extremely worrying picture as far as Delhi is concerned. Currently, the positivity rate exceeding 13%. And of course, reservations that have been made in private hospitals. Now, 14 private hospitals have been made dedicated COVID facilities. Sukirti joins us with the very latest. Sukirti, you've been covering the details of this story from the ground. There is a shortage of ICU beds with ventilators that has been reported. There are also relatives of patients who are complaining about the shortage of critical drugs to treat COVID-19 in the market. What really is the plan of action that the Delhi government has put in place in order to battle this surge?
Well, yes, as far as the hospital bed crisis is concerned, what the government has done is that they've made at least 14 private hospitals as entirely COVID dedicated, and the same case with at least 4 big government hospitals. Now, when they ramp up hospital infrastructure for COVID patients by adding beds in these hospitals and making them entirely COVID dedicated, there is, of course, collateral damage in the form of non-COVID patients. We yesterday reported from the ground and we found all of these people that were being discharged from hospitals, even cardiac patients being discharged after being in a hospital for even 11 or 12 days when they've already been undergoing a treatment. They are being discharged from these hospitals. We reported on how people who had scheduled surgeries, those have been delayed and postponed now. People were informed after they turned up at the hospital for a hip replacement surgery. They were told that will happen next week now. So that's what is happening on that front. That on one hand, for COVID-19 patients, things may slightly improve with these new hospital beds being added, but of course with the rise in cases, how much this hospital infrastructure will be able to match up in the next few days, that is something we have to keep an eye on. As far as the medicine shortage is concerned, Delhi government cannot do much at this point of time if there is shortage, because all of this supply, as you see, is also regulated by the center. And what the center has said is that the shortage that is happening on ground is not because there is lack of stock, it is because these medicines are not being used judiciously. They are not supposed to be used by home isolation patients, but only in hospital settings for patients patients who are on oxygen supply. So that is what the center has said so far. So medicine supply at this point, it is in the hands of the healthcare workers, especially the doctors who are prescribing remdesivir, and they will have to be more cautious. And that's what the Indian Medical Association has also appealed to all of the doctors across the country, that please prescribe remdesivir only to people who are in hospitals and are on oxygen supply. Do not keep prescribing it for home isolation patients.
All right. So a lot of these drugs that are currently, the supply of a lot of these drugs which is in question also need to be rationed, is what the center is saying. The usage of these drugs is only for patients who are critical and in fact in hospital, not for home care patients. However, it's interesting because there clearly appears to be a difference in opinion. You have on the one hand the Maharashtra Chief Minister saying there is a shortage of remdesivir, demanding more drug supply from the center saying that there is no such shortage and it has in fact been dealt with. So that's a clear difference of opinion that is emerging there. Appreciate you, Sukirti, for joining us with the very latest. Let's now get in our panel of experts to discuss what the status is right now and what the road to recovery really looks like at the moment. We have Dr. Rajendra K. Dhameja. He is a professor in HOD neurology at the Lady Hardinge Medical College. He's joining us from New Delhi. He's also a WHO fellow, the National Institute of Epidemiology. Thanks so much for being with us. We have Dr. Rajesh Parikh, Director Medical Research, Jaslok Hospital in Mumbai as well. Dr. Parikh, I want to come to you first because, you know, when we talk about the road to recovery, Maharashtra has chosen its path. There's going to be prohibitory orders imposed in a couple of hours from now for a period of 15 days. You know, this given the fact that the healthcare system in Maharashtra is completely overstretched, do you believe that the state can actually flatten the curve in this fortnight?
I'd like to believe that, Rishika. Good morning. You know, a curfew of this kind is like a tourniquet which is tied around a vein to reduce the hemorrhage and possibly to prevent an amputation, which in this case would be the dreaded lockdown. But if I may, two observations on what you have shown us so far in your program. Here's the silver lining. You know, we can now eat street food at home while watching images of crematoria collapsing under the burden of disposing the dead. These scenes are reminiscent of Spielberg's Schindler's List, where the furnaces in Auschwitz worked day and night to dispose of the bodies of victims. And ironically, public transportation was open in those days too, except that it just took victims to the gas chambers. And secondly, I know this might sound controversial, Rishika, but I firmly believe that remdesivir is a smoke screen while we try to pull out some rabbits out of a hat. The WHO in November last year actually advised against the use of remdesivir based on a large trial, the Solidarity study. It was a well-conducted study across the world, showed no benefit whatsoever. Several studies across the world have shown no benefit whatsoever. That's the reason pharmaceuticals lost interest in it.
Dr.
Not because everything was under control.
And I don't at the moment, want to get into the merits of the drug or the course of treatment, because there are, that opens up a whole different realm of conversation altogether. But, Dr. Dhameja, talking about the road to recovery, one of the things that has been highlighted in the recent days as cases continue to surge and, the demand for COVID tests, RT-PCR tests once again increases, is that there are a lot of doctors who are actually talking about false negatives that are coming to light. A lot of doctors actually coming out and saying that patients who are symptomatic and are testing negative for COVID should still be given treatment as if they were COVID positive. Do you agree with that assessment, and does that at all worry you?
Good morning, Rishika. You're partially correct that sometimes you can get false negative tests. As of now, RT-PCR is still the gold standard. But having said that, it's still not 100% foolproof test. You can have a false negative, you can have a false positive also, but usually false positive, we don't get it. If it is positive, it is positive. That is 100%. But if you can get false negative and the patient is typical phenotype of COVID-19 symptoms, then it is always better to isolate unless it is confirmed that he is not having COVID-19. That is much more important. The important thing is, my only worry is that R effective is rising now. The national R effective is 1.5. That means each person is infecting another 1.5 people, or 2 people are infecting 3 persons. Next person, so only 3 persons are infecting 4.5 people, and 4.5 people are infecting another 13.5. This is also variable across the states. That's what we have found out in our study also, that COVID-19 is behaving differently in different states, and I'm worried about the parts like UP and Bihar where the R effective is more than 2.5. So in next coming 2 to 3 weeks, we are going to have another surge in the regional areas of India. Apart from metropolitan city, the virus is spreading. Virus is out here in a rampant situation, and the virus is spreading to the regional areas and to the rural areas where we don't have
the proliferation of the virus, to smaller towns has been a cause of major concern, something that we've highlighted here on NDTV time and time again, because questions then will be asked, larger questions, Dr. Dhameja, on whether the rural healthcare infrastructure or even the healthcare infrastructure in tier 2, tier 3 cities is robust enough to be able to support the spread of critical disease or be able to treat patients with critical disease. We also have Dr. Rajesh Kumar on the phone line with us. He's the Executive Director, Healthcare System Resource Centre from Punjab. He's also the former Dean of PGI Chandigarh. Thanks so much, Dr. Kumar, for being with us. You know, it's an important point that Dr. Dhameja makes on how the virus is spreading far beyond what one had thought or one had seen in the first wave of COVID in India. What's your reading and assessment? How prepared are we in the smaller towns to deal with the onslaught?
Yes, this is right that spread this time is more extensive. Many states are in the grip of this spread, which started in Maharashtra and Punjab and now spread into other states. And this time, another feature which we noticed in Punjab also, that statistics which were predominantly rural small towns also had COVID spread outbreaks. And therefore, it is equally important to be prepared to face this situation in smaller towns and rural areas.
Right.
And accordingly, state governments are preparing infrastructure in those areas as well.
Right. Dr. Kumar, do you also agree that the virus is behaving differently in different parts? Something that Dr. Dhameja said, we are seeing states like Punjab, for instance, or Maharashtra, of course, which are seeing a far more exponential rise as compared to others.
Yes, I think the spread in Punjab was led by this variant. UK variant was discovered first time in Punjab, and about 80% of the cases, they were UK variant, which is well now it is more infectious. It spreads faster than the earlier one we faced in September. So we do see that it is more infectious, but what we have seen is that severity is not that much.
Okay. Well, that's a silver lining then. Dr. Parikh, a quick comment on vaccines, because we are now seeing an emergency use authorization for the Sputnik vaccine that's been given to be made available by the end of May. India has also cleared the way, from a policy point of view at least, for vaccines that have been approved in other countries to make their way to India without a clinical trial. Is this a big breakthrough or too little too late? Which way would you weigh in?
Quite clearly, Rishika, this is a step in the right direction. We've been pleading for this for over 3.5 months now, and it's always, better late than never. But just one correction, Rishika, I think in times to come, we'll have to use the plural for virus and call them as viruses, because the different mutant strains are quite distinct from each other in not only their pattern of spread, but also in their overall behavior. And that explains the differential spread across the world and within our country in various states.
Right. And Dr. Dhameja, in your opinion now, with the option of having more than 2 or 3 vaccines in the Indian market, do you believe that increases our chances or betters our prospects of dealing with these viruses, the multiple strains that are behaving differently, like you said?
Absolutely. With the rising cases in India, the vaccination is the most effective tool as of now in our battle against COVID-19. And this is definitely a welcome step, and we need more vaccines. And this Sputnik has already been approved in 59 countries. India is the 60th country to give approval to the Sputnik vaccine.
Yes.
So obviously we have, if we have more number of vaccines, the more options, more accessibility, more availability of the vaccine to the masses, that would be a very, very important step in the direction to way out of the pandemic. But I need to tell you one more thing, that even the approval of the vaccines which have already been approved by US, UK, EU or Japan, they have almost committed more than what they can have a production in next coming months. So obviously we need to focus also on Covaxin, Covishield ramp up production in our country, because eventually we will have to depend upon the number of doses available. So
yes.
obviously if Pfizer and the Moderna has already committed more than 1.2 billion or whatever production they can have it. So we need to focus either on collaborations or partnership with Indian firms and with the companies like Pfizer and Moderna, so that we can also produce or the manufacture vaccine, which we have, which we can. So the focus should also be on the indigenous capacity building for the vaccine production, so that accessibility and availability is
while of course we have to continue to forge those collaborations globally and enable as many vaccines, effective vaccines, to come into the Indian market. You're absolutely right. Indigenous production cannot be compromised at that, and more importantly, it is really our best shot of flattening the curve to increase the pace of vaccinations and go and vaccinate as many people as is possible. Thank you so much, doctors, for sparing your valuable time and joining us this morning with your perspective. We're going to continue to keep a close watch on those numbers. We will in fact have the latest 24-hour numbers coming in just a bit. We'll get you up to speed with the latest. Short break here. We'll be back with more. Welcome back. The former Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh is going to be questioned by the CBI today in connection with the alleged corruption charges that have been levelled against him by former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh. Complying with the Bombay High Court order, the CBI has initiated a preliminary inquiry into the corruption allegations against Anil Deshmukh. The central agency has 15 days to complete this preliminary inquiry. Parambir Singh, in his letter, remember, had alleged that Anil Deshmukh had asked Sachin Vaze and 2 other cops to collect bribes from restaurants and bars in Mumbai. Along with Anil Deshmukh, the CBI has also summoned 2 staff members of his office. Well, let's now shift our focus back to the COVID crisis. The national capital is emerging as an epicenter of COVID-19 in India at the moment, surpassing the daily cases of Mumbai as well. The Delhi government, of course, has decided to scale up the healthcare infrastructure. 14 private hospitals have now been dedicated to COVID cases only. This has, of course, raised a lot of questions as well, and we'll get you all of that in just a bit. But let's shift our focus to the breaking news that is coming in at the moment, which is the latest COVID-19 numbers that India is reporting. India has recorded 1,84,372 cases in the last 24 hours. India has also crossed 1,000 daily COVID deaths. 1,027 deaths have also been reported in this 24-hour period. This is India's highest daily cases till date. Yesterday, remember, India had recorded 1,68,000 cases. There were just over 900 deaths reported. This is the 4th consecutive day that India is seeing over 1.5 lakh cases on a daily basis. And as far as India is concerned right now, 1,84,000, inching closer to that dreaded 2 lakh mark. This is extremely worrying news that is coming in. Sukirti, who's been checking the details of this story, joins us for the very latest. Sukirti, 1,84,000 cases, India surpassing 1,000 deaths. These are extremely worrying numbers that you're reporting once again this morning.
Well, yes, Rishika, one has been desperately hoping for the situation to improve. Yesterday, when we saw a very slight dip in cases, and we saw that yesterday the positivity rate has also been slightly lesser than the one reported the previous day. One was hoping that the trend would continue, but of course, 2 days are too less to predict how things are going to be in terms of India's COVID situation. And unfortunately, today the figures are telling us a very tragic story at this point of time. Over 1,000 people have lost their lives in the last 24 hours. Over 1,80,000 people have been detected positive with COVID. If you look at the scenario in just the last 7 days, it is the 8th consecutive day of India reporting over 1 lakh cases and the 4th consecutive day of India reporting over 1.5 lakh cases. So the pattern at this point of time, extremely grim reality of India's COVID situation at this point of time. And of course, the biggest worries being Maharashtra, being the national capital, Delhi, Delhi has in fact even surpassed Mumbai in terms of its daily cases record. In Delhi recorded over 13,000 cases in just the last 24 hours. Everywhere, the state governments, the central governments taking several measures in order to control the situation. Hospital infrastructure being ramped up at this point of time, but the situation is only getting worse.
All right. Well, the situation most certainly, Sukirti, is getting worse. India is seeing a huge spike of over 1,84,000 coronavirus infections in the last 24 hours, surpassing the grim milestone of 1,000 deaths as well. This is extremely worrying news that is coming in. Remember, prohibitory orders will be put in place from 8 p.m. this evening across the length and breadth of Maharashtra for a period of 15 days. There are micro-containment strategies that have been put in place in different parts of the country basis the rise in infections. But is it really enough to flatten the curve? We'll continue to track the details of this story very closely. But the national capital, like Sukirti was saying, is presenting itself as a worrying situation. Delhi reporting more cases than Mumbai. Over 13,500 cases in Delhi also in the last 24 hours. What really is the story that's playing out in Delhi? Sukirti sent us this report.
Today's record high is the third consecutive day that Delhi recorded over 10,000 cases. It is also day one of 14 major private hospitals being co-opted by the government as COVID-dedicated hospitals. The non-COVID patients in these hospitals are now hassled. Veena Goel's 82-year-old mother, Saroj Gupta, a cardiac patient, has been admitted for 12 days. Today, she was told she is being discharged as the hospital is now only for COVID patients.
I wasn't really surprised when I read about it yesterday night in the news that 14 hospitals and this particular hospital, so we were really scared. But it was, I would say, thanks be to God that she is stable, and of course at home we have made some arrangements. We have a nurse and a dedicated room.
Others are less fortunate. 23-year-old Himanshu Gilodia came from 45 kilometers away just outside Delhi for his hip replacement surgery scheduled today, but was turned back.
दिक्कत तो हुई आने जाने में, लेकिन अब क्या बताएं, जो डॉक्टर ही ऑपरेट नहीं करे तो क्या दिक्कत। उन्होंने अब पहले ये बोला था कि आज का डेट दिया था, देन फिर अब बोल रहे हैं कि जब तक अब कल शाम को जैसे गाइडलाइन शुरू हुई है कि कोरोना के उससे अब क्या कहते हैं बाद में एडमिट करेंगे।
The Delhi Chief Minister made this appeal.
जो प्लान्ड सर्जरीज हैं अपनी, जैसे मान लीजिए किसी को नी रिप्लेसमेंट कराना है, किसी को ये महीना 2 महीना 3 महीना डिले हो सकते हैं। जो इमरजेंसीज होंगी दिल्ली में उसके लिए अभी भी सफिशिएंट कैपेसिटी अपने पास कोविड बीमारियों के लिए, कई सारे अस्पताल अभी भी हैं, लेकिन जो प्लान्ड सर्जरीज हैं वो ज़्यादा होती हैं, इमरजेंसीज कम होती हैं, वो अब हम थोड़ा सा डिले कर लें।
The numbers too reflect that it's the COVID patients that are in greater danger, with 91% of the ICU beds for COVID patients occupied as compared to 74% for non-COVID patients.
With Delhi recording over 10,000 cases on a daily basis, COVID patients definitely need to be the priority. But the government will have to ensure that non-COVID patients do not become collateral damage in this process. In New Delhi with camera person Sushil Rathi, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
All right. Well, 1,84,000 coronavirus infections in the last 24 hours. Yet, look at these pictures that my colleague Akshay Dongre has sent us from the Mahakumbh in Haridwar. Clearly undeterred by the exponential rise in COVID-19 infections and deaths across the country, the Kumbh Mela continues unabated in Haridwar. Today, in fact, is the third Shahi Snan of the Mahakumbh. It is taking place with millions of devotees expected to take a dip in the Ganga amid the surging cases. Social distancing continues to remain a distant reality, with most devotees even claiming that there is no fear of COVID-19. Akshay sent us this report.
So do you think that there is a fear of COVID here because there are so many people, absolutely no social distancing?
I feel in the power of the Ganga, the energy is so strong than the virus. We need to live, of course. We need to stay together. Why not here? I think the benefit will be bigger than contamination.
आप बताइए भैया, किसी प्रकार का डर यहाँ पर लोगों में कोविड का आपको लग रहा है?
नहीं, हमको कोई डर नहीं है, लेकिन ये है कि हमें इस डर को अपने अंदर रखना चाहिए, है ना। अगर
डर है नहीं है, आप
डर नहीं है अभी, लेकिन क्या है कि अगर हम सबको छोड़ देंगे ऐसी तो बहुत मुसीबत हो सकती है, लेकिन है ना
जी, वो तो है। तो there are certain people who are saying that fear should be there, but it's not here, at least at the Ghats. We'll speak to these people as well and try to take their perspective. कहाँ से आए सर आप? कहाँ से आए हैं?
हम लोग तो यहीं से
शिवालिक से। एक बात बताइए, यहाँ पे कोविड का किसी प्रकार का डर आपको लग रहा है लोगों को?
डर तो है, आया हुआ है, तो बढ़ेगा ही, स्वाभाविक है।
और आप लोकल से? आप लोकल है?
हम तो यहीं से आए हैं, लेकिन डर तो है ही है।
तो क्या लगता है कि कुंभ के यहाँ पर इस साल होने से, क्योंकि कोरोना का पूरा देश में संक्रमण चल रहा है, लोकल आबादी पर भी असर पड़ेगा, कोरोना यहाँ भी फैल सकता है?
बाहर से लोग आ रहे हैं तो स्वाभाविक है, फैलेगा ही फैलेगा। और उसके बाद में देखिए, खत्म होने के बाद में कितना यहाँ के लोगों को प्रॉब्लम होगी।
वही इफेक्टेड आएगा, 90-100 को तो इफेक्ट करेगा वो।
तो यहाँ पर लगता है कि प्रशासन कहीं ना कहीं सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग नहीं रखवा पा रहा है, लोगों को अलग अलग
होगा ही नहीं,
क्या कर पाएंगे
ऐसे में सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग नहीं हो सकता है।
लेकिन फिर भी डरों को पीछे करके आप यहाँ पर स्नान करने के लिए आए, डर होते हुए भी आप स्नान करने के लिए आए हैं।
माता रानी का आशीर्वाद है, जय माँ गंगे।
These are certain claims of the people. Some are saying that there are fears, others are saying that there are absolutely no fear. Many are comparing the Kumbh congregation to the election rallies that are taking place across the country, but the situation remains extremely worrying as far as the COVID appropriate behavior and the authorities as far as the regulation, implementation of those rules are concerned.
All right, at a time when the COVID-19 crisis is peaking in the country, tourism has been remembered among the worst hit sectors because people are reluctant to travel, but that doesn't seem to apply to Kashmir, where the tourist footfall has actually exceeded 1 lakh since December.
Never mind COVID, we have to travel. That's Priya and her father Major Kotecha, who have travelled all the way from Gujarat as the pandemic rages throughout the country, because their visit to see the Dal Lake and Tulip Garden was long overdue.
And as you know, because there are constraints in international travels, and also all people are preferring to go over the domestic places.
Correct.
So yeah, actually we have planned since long to come here.
Okay.
So everything was booked. And then this, all of a sudden there was a COVID surge. So we were also in a dilemma that whether we should go or not.
तो अभी रिटायर होने के बाद तय कर लिया कि जाना ही जाना है, तो 2-3 महीने पहले ही प्लान कर लिया था, सब बुकिंग हो गया है। कोविड आ गया, मतलब फिर से, फिर उसका RT-PCR सब टेस्ट करवा गया है, इधर भी एंगेजन करवाया।
Many visitors say that with restrictions on international travel, Kashmir was a good option for them. The State Tourism Department says over 1 lakh tourists have arrived in the valley since December, at a time when daily cases in Kashmir are up to 1,200.
The opportunity that we should invite people here, as we have seen that COVID management has been very well in Jammu and Kashmir, and that is how it has picked up from December onwards. And till now, let me just inform you that 1,13,000 tourists they have visited.
After the lockdown effect last year, hoteliers say their businesses are recovering this year.
तो लोग अच्छे खासे आ गए, तो स्टार्ट हो गया था। जो हमारे मुलाजिम ऑलरेडी सारे बेचारे निकल चुके थे, कुछ जो बिजनेस से ख़त्म हो चुके थे, फिर शुरुआत हो गई। अल्लाह का शुक्र है। तो मगर बदकिस्मती है, ये पैडमिक का मसला चल रहा है, कुछ महाराष्ट्र, कुछ गुजरात, तो वहाँ से थोड़ा सा उसमें कुछ हफ्ते से फर्क आ गया है।
Amid COVID-19 tourism boom in Kashmir, stakeholders say that if it continues like this, it will help revive tourism sector that was literally crippled due to political situation and subsequent COVID lockdown. In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
Well, on to the other big story that we're tracking. US regulators have recommended a pause on Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine. This after they say that there have been reports of a rare and severe type of blood clot that has been detected in 6 persons out of the millions that have been vaccinated in the US so far. The CDC will be reviewing the cases pending which they have recommended a pause on the vaccine. This halt is temporary, but could in fact be extended pending an investigation. Now, after the pause in the United States, Johnson & Johnson will be delaying the vaccine rollout in Europe as well. The company has said that we're proactively delaying vaccine rollout in Europe. We're reviewing cases with the European authorities and working with medical experts and health authorities along with beneficiaries who've been reporting several pain or headache or even abdominal pain or facing shortness of breath as a result of the vaccine.
Today, the CDC and FDA announced that they are calling a pause on the administration of the J&J vaccine for COVID-19 due to a small number of adverse events. It was seen in 6 out of the 6.85 million people who've been vaccinated, and out of an abundance of caution, they've called a pause on the administration. There are a couple of reasons to do that. The first is to investigate this a bit further, and the second is to alert the clinicians out there when someone comes in with these types of symptoms to ask them if they have a history of a recent vaccination.